Hello, everybody. Once again, we have another episode of Scriptwriting for Beginners, hosted with the one and only, because there's only one of me, James Brennan. Please subscribe, like on YouTube, and also on Twitter, which is James Brennan _. First things first, I just wanted to answer one question that I was getting about where do I seem to locate all the scripts from. This one is from Scriptslug, which, to be fair, has a great range of mainly feature films scripts, but in this instance, television. What I tend to normally do is write the script, the title of the film or television show into Google and PDF, and click search and see what ones come up. Some, for some reason, are kind of impossible to find. For example, the UK Office, I couldn't seem to find the actual PDF script. Sometimes you get transcripts, which are literally just a dialogue, and it's someone basically typing it word for word, so it's not actually the writer's style, like writing style. It's somebody else kind of mimicking it. Another source is the BBC Writers' Room, which I used for the Jim and McGovern TV series. Obviously, predominantly any show that's on the BBC, if it's a drama or comedy, radio, etc., they have that. But if you want something specific, then a quick Google search should do the job. Anyway, so for episode 14, off the back of episode 13, which we took a look at Scream, which was quite frightening, I thought, why not go completely the opposite way and go something quite comical and a TV, which have a sip of my coffee. Which, as you know, as you'll notice by the videos that I've been doing, I tend to focus more on feature films, even though I myself write television, and that's purely because I find that the television scripts are shorter in length and have time to create character and to build on plot. So sometimes reading a television script pilot is good just to sort of see how it looks, but might not necessarily tell the full story. Whereas at least with a feature film, everything has to kind of be condensed. So 10 pages in a feature film, in my personal opinion, has to be more crucial and tight than, say, 10 pages in a pilot. Obviously, they still have to be good. But obviously, for example, The Office, which is adapted from the UK version, written by Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais, which obviously was phenomenal, and one of the first mockumentaries that I personally feel like the UK an audience ever saw. I can't remember many, and obviously then it went over to the US. And onto my point about you can see how the character of Michael Scott from not just the first episode, but the first season, how he becomes a completely different character. And that's one thing I want to kind of discuss with this. For those who know almost word for word the UK Office, how similar the US pilot is. This is the pilot, so episode 1. I listened to a podcast the other day with Ricky Gervais talking to Steve Sharippa and Michael Imperioli on the Talking Sopranos podcast. He was a special guest, and they were basically talking about the success. And he basically was very involved in season 1, and then they kind of distanced themselves and let Greg Daniels and his team of writers kind of fully take over, which I'm happy with, because to be honest with you, as much as I love the UK Office and the American Office, I cringe at the pilot of the US Office purely because it is word for word, and some of the jokes I feel like are delivered better by David Brent's character rather than Michael Scott. And I think the US version took it into a new direction with being slightly over the top, and the characters were in the second season were a bit more exaggerated than the UK version. So obviously this pilot, you'll notice that the opening is very, very similar to the UK version, which has David Brent and Michael Scott sitting in the office talking to a new member of staff about a forklift driving license. So scene 1, Michael Scott's office. Michael Scott is sitting behind his desk addressing the job seeker. Now, first things first, what gets me is there's no character description of Michael Scott. Excuse me, the highlighter's not very good. Now, I don't know if that's because it's meant to be a mockumentary and therefore look like a documentary. Is Michael Scott, when if you were reading this and you didn't know anything about the UK version or anything like that, are you meant to just assume that Michael Scott is average looking? He's your average boss, which obviously both Ricky Gervais and Steve Carell are. They play it. There's nothing specific about their look. The only characters who may have a specific look in the show would be like Dwight, Angela, etc. And then maybe we'll find out later if they are specified the way they look. So that's quite interesting. So Scott, I'm a busy man. When I give jobs, I don't have time for a lot of BS. If a guy comes to me and says, Michael, this job has been my dream since I was a little kid. My whole life has been leading up to this job. That I respond to. Nothing is more important than enthusiasm, from the Greek word meaning enthusiastic. He looks to the job seeker who says nothing. Now, here is a very, very kind of copied formula that David Brent's character did, where he looks for recognition of him assuming that what he's just said is very, very clever. But he looks to the job seeker who says nothing, so obviously what he's just said isn't clever. Only problem is you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk. Again, very David Brentism. Okay, that was global. I'll make it local. You didn't pass your forklift driver's test, but the foreman at the warehouse is a personal friend, okay? So don't sweat it, you're in. He picks up the receiver and dials. Dion, you dog. Player. He winks at the job seeker. It's the boss, and when I mean Springsteen, I just say God. Have you put an ad out for the forklift driver's job? Scott crosses his fingers and bites his lip. Good, don't. I've got the guy here. He's the man. Has he passed his forklift driver's test? Player, he gives the test. You don't need to know the answers from the other guy on the other end of the phone, Dion in this instance, because Michael Scott's responses are enough to kind of gauge what the what the replies would have been. So I think in this one page alone, you can kind of get a sense that if Michael Scott's meant to be the boss of this company, considering he's conducting an interview for a new employee, it's very, very informal and quite quite childish. Gives a speech about this, which is just kind of making the job seem a little bit more important than it is. This showing off that the warehouse is a person, guy who works in the warehouse is a personal friend. Dion, you dog. Player, showing off, quite literally says that, trying to be down with the kid. I hate that expression, but that's what he's trying to do, especially because he winks at the job seeker as if to say, look, this is how cool I am. I can talk like this. It's the boss. Have you put out the ad for the forklift driver's test? That is a good way of just knowing that Michael Scott is the boss. Good, don't. I've got him right here. Player, he gives the test. Scott rolls his eyes. Sure. He's first aid trained. Sure. We'll shoot a resume over to you this afternoon. Scott minds the job seeker to type up a resume. That, for me, is very similar to the UK office. Obviously, as I said, it is word for word. That bit, I think, works better in the UK office because you can get a sense of, he'll do it now. And you cannot, why, you've got to ask yourself, why is Michael Scott and David Brent trying to blag and bluff this employee in? Why is it so important that this employee gets hired? And I think it's because he wants to be liked, and try to get everyone a job. And another thing that Ricky Gervais said was, once you realise that The Office is about some guy wanting to be famous, it all makes sense. Mark Scott, David Brent, they use this mockumentary. They've used the documentary opportunity as a chance to become famous. So you could argue, are they usually like this if the cameras weren't rolling? And I guess as a character trait, they probably are. But it's even heightened because they're getting filmed and they have this sense of, we could become famous from it. We're still hanging on Sunday? No, you can't go out. How's Jill? She left you yet? Sure, okay, see you then. Puts the phone down and grits his teeth. She left him last month. I forgot about that. Personally speaking, I would have put a beat there to make it even more, because how's Jill? She left you yet? Yeah, sure, okay, see you then. To give it a beat and to kind of completely change the tone would imply that whatever the guy has said on the other end of the phone kind of completely kills the mood. So Scott, excuse me, open plan office. Again, not much of a description about the office because I guess an office is an office. I've been in the business for 12 years. I've been at IDs as general manager for 8 of these years, which is interesting. That was there. That then became Dunder Mifflin. Mifflin. I can't even pronounce it. So getting together my team. Hey, it's Spam, wonderful Pam, Beasley, reception. How you doing? Been with us forever, right, Pam? Again, no character description about Pam. How you doing? Been with us forever, right, Pam? That tells you a lot about Pam's character. Not only has she been to the job as a receptionist for ages, means that she hasn't got promoted. She hasn't ventured out. She's not content with being a receptionist because her reply is very, very, negative in the sense of she's only said yeah, but been with us forever, right, Pam? Yeah. And at one time, every other guy in the office has sprayed on Pam. What? Now, I don't... Oh, right. That I'm assuming has to be for American audiences. Because in the UK one, it's dawn, and every office has been up the crack of dawn, which makes sense. So sprayed on Pam. What? Any messages? Yeah, just the facts. This is from corporate, I know. How many times have I told you there's a special file in the cabinet things from corporate? You haven't told me. It's called the waste paper basket. Scott throws the facts over the counter into Pam's waste paper and laughs at the brilliance of his practical joke. Look on your face. Ha! You better get that back. So it just kind of like, he does something at the expense of somebody else. Pam is a receptionist who gives him the information that he needs, and is required as a receptionist. But to play up to the camera, he thinks it's rubbish. Tries to make a joke, but then at the end of it realises, actually, I'm probably going to have to get that back. But rather than him picking it up, you'd better get that back. He's the boss. It's such a clever way of, he can make the joke at expense of everyone else, but expects everyone else to pick up the pieces. Now, interesting. Again, this is very, very... this would only really apply to mockumentary style, or obviously real documentaries. So a talking head is quite literally when it cuts to them one-on-one. If you've seen this show, you know what I'm talking about. It's them with a backdrop of just a plain backdrop, and it basically gives you a chance to... It's a clever way of getting inside the character's head, because it's meant to be... Because if you think about it, it's a mockumentary, it gives the character a chance to say something that they wouldn't necessarily want to say to somebody else. You can imagine them, if it's the mockumentary, saying, is this bit going to be cut? We're just going to get loads of different answers and edit it. So they kind of feel safe in this environment, or a chance to, show off. People say I'm the best boss, world's greatest boss. They go, oh, we never worked a place like this before. You get the best out of it. And go, I know it's true. It's awesome. So I like smuggling. Come out, take it easy on me today, Pam. Yeah, why is that? Oh God, did I play last night? I was out with Packer, Meredith Paxter Bruni. Interesting. Should have been a comma. Meredith Paxter Bernie. Anyway, Todd Packer had us a bar hop. Duff, that wonderful stuff. Scott Mimes drinking. I was baked, man, blotto. As you can see here, alteration that says wasted. Wow, don't ever come out with me in the Green Bay Packer. Again, building up this character of Todd Packer. No, I won't. Which is very, very. Pam's very, very blunt, because again, she doesn't enjoy the job. She doesn't enjoy Michael Scott. There's guys my age and they look middle aged. How old do you think I am? 30, right? Doesn't even allow 13. Wants to say 39. The little dashes here means that she gets cut off, interrupted. 30, right? About that. Oh man, I've got to slow down. Drinking a little too much. Scott pats his belly if every single night of the week is too much, and every lunchtime. Scott turns suddenly a cold look at us. How many have I had this week? What? Now this shows, again, Michael Scott's character. He can make a joke at other people's expenses, as well as, causing mayhem in the office and being kind of unprofessional. And yet Pam, the one time she tries to join in on the joke, because Michael Scott didn't make it, and it kind of touches his nerve, he kind of reacts in a very sort of childish way. How many beers have I drunk this week, if you counted? I'm not counting. You seem to be counting. Does it offend you? That's getting a little bit personal. What if I started doing that with you? I could look at you and come up with something clever, like you're really... Again, it shows you that... Oh, excuse me, his coffee's very nice. It shows you that Michael Scott's humour isn't clever, because he He says here, I could look at you and come up with something clever, like you're really, but he can't think of anything, but I don't. And then tries to blame it on because I'm a professional. He doesn't try to blame it on the fact that he's not clever or can't really think in the moment. He blames him. He blames for not being able to come up with a joke because he's professional. I'm disappointed, Pam. I really am. Again, just shows the relationship between them two. Jim, again, no character description. Dwight arrives, again, no character description, and smacks Jim upside the head with a newspaper. Now, funnily enough, with this, you would assume that Dwight is the bully and Jim is the person who gets bullied, where in some sense it is the other way round. Jim doesn't like out and out bully Dwight, and vice versa. But it's obviously why Jim winds Dwight up more than with practical stuff, and yet the opening scene you have it where Dwight hits Jim. So if you didn't know who Dwight's character was based on Gareth or how it was going to develop, you would assume that Jim is the geek and Dwight is the jock, essentially. Especially here because you don't have character descriptions. So let's try to get rid of all our preconceived ideas about who they are. What's up? Jim looks indignant. Oh, don't do that, Jesus. Oh, what's the matter? Is it time of the month? We were just 10 Bruce with me last night. Yeah, that's all. Ugh. Again, Dwight isn't a jock. He's far from it, and yet his dialogue is written like a jock. If we're talking Americanisms, Dwight pretends to find a headline in the newspaper. Oh no, here it is. IDS, which is the company. Management. Woo! And tonight I'm going out with Animal. Yeah, we're just going to go to the library and read. No, I doubt it. Jim talking head. Again, opportunities to show you more about Jim. I'm a sales rep, which means that my job is to speak about clients. Blah 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 blah, and I'm boring myself talking about it. So that sums up Jim. Jim is almost the male equivalent of Pam. They don't enjoy their job, whereas Dwight, because Dwight went out last night with the boss and self-proclaimed team leader, it shows you that Dwight's relationship so Dwight is like Michael Scott. They both enjoy their job. And they drive, they think they're the it boys. Jim and Pam hate their job and kind of the audience's representation in it. Scott emerges from his office smiling. What's up? What's up? Says the same thing as Dwight. Hey, but this time, this is very, very interesting. Jim, bit of a kiss-ass, because he now says what's up. Earlier when Dwight says what's up and hits him, he didn't find it funny. I still love that. Does he love it, or is he just doing it to play up to Michael Scott? What's up? Oh, points at Dwight. You're fired, Shrew, you big drunk. Scott points at himself, laughing. Pot calling the kettle black here. Scott minds vomiting and starts giggling. Dwight joins in. What do he tell you? It's all true. Guilty as a further mucker. Clever. Went out with a few of his crew last night. He goes, well, you can come if you want, but I've got to warn you, Michael. They can get rowdy. I go, oh, I'll tell you if they can handle it. Well, who's that for? That's my boss. Well, we can't stand it anymore. We're leaving. They just snuck out, didn't they? Now, it starts off as very, very funny. And like it's a very self-indulgent story about look how great I am. I've been invited out. But then I was worse than they are by the end of it. That's nothing to be proud of. But in Michael Scott's eyes, it is because he's been invited out. He feels wanted. And then the fact that who's that freak, quite an insult. But in the moment, he doesn't find it offensive when he's telling the story. He doesn't find it offensive. And then that's my boss. Well, we can't stand it anymore. We're leaving. They snuck out, didn't they? He finds it a funny conclusion. I told you, outrageous. Scott puts one hand around his throat, another reaching out in front of him as he's saying, help me, hey. Scott laughs, waiting for a response. There is none. What? Nothing. See you later. Okay, see you later. Take care. And again, that's another David Brentism where, because he waits for a response and there is none, Michael Scott says, what? Wanting there to be a response. Because there is nothing, he says, nothing. See you later. Okay, see you later. Take care. Jan Tarnowski Gould approaches. Again, no description. Scott's talking head begins over this. Corporate doesn't really interfere with me at all. Jan Gould, I call her Ruth Bader Gisberg. He not to her face, but not because I'm scared of her. Jan and Scott sit in Scott's office. Pan comes in and sits down. Scott is discussing his tie. I got them a Fafron guy, had a suitcase up the street, 2 for $10. Yo, I'll take 4. So, okay, meet with Jan Tarnowski Gould present. Dan takes some papers out. She crosses her legs and Scott sneaks a look. Um, Interesting for me because you know how that plays out in the TV show. It isn't done in a seedy way, and you don't ever get the feeling that David Brent is seedy or Michael Scott. It's, to be honest with you, it comes across in the as a very uncomfortable, unfortunate timing where he doesn't mean to look, and but he's so awkward. He's so awkward around females, and he's awkward about sex, which definitely is a character trait that they both have. You know, their dating history, and yet the action description here, she crosses her leg and Scott sneaks a look, implies that Michael Scott's almost looking for the opportunity, whereas I don't necessarily think that is the case when you watch it. So it was interesting to know how they kind of made it look on screen as opposed to how it was described. Shoot. Was there anything that you wanted to add to the agenda? No, me no get an agenda. Trying to be a call. Sorry, I did not get any agenda. I faxed you one this morning. No, we never got a fax, did we, Pam? Well, maybe. Then why isn't it on my hand? Interesting. Again, I always got told that certain in this kind of description here, you're only ever meant to use it if you're saying stuff like to someone, like to Pam. If it's shouting, singing, whispering. Sometimes you can say mockingly, if that's a word, jokingly. But and the same thing with passing the buck. But there's certain times where I'd almost think that what you say in this dialogue should be able to tell both the actor and the reader what's the intent behind it. Now the fact that he says why isn't it in my hand? Well, we know why it isn't in his hand, because Michael Scott said it's from corporate and threw it in the waste paper bin earlier. So that we know that's why it's not in his hand. So we know that he's trying to pass the buck and pass the blame. So to kind of state that this section here is to pass the buck, well, is that meant to alter the way the character delivers the line? Or is it so that we as the audience know and we don't kind of think, well, hang on a minute, he did get a fax. I personally would avoid things like this and only ever keep it for things like, how vocally it should sound. So singing, chanting, aggressively shouting. But then again, shouting can be done with exclamation mark. And if he sort of said, and if your character says something like "shut up!" exclamation mark, well, you don't need to state shouting because we assume it's going to be shouting because, shouting with an exclamation mark is shouting. Shut up with a full stop is blunt. It could be said quietly. Maybe if you want to specify that it isn't shouting, then say quietly. But if you want to say that it is shouting while saying that, then state it. You put me in the You put it in the garage, the garbage can. That was a special filing cabinet. To Jan, covering himself again. To Jan, perfect. So we know that he's not talking to Pam now. But covering himself for me is unusual to have this. As a joke, yeah, it's not even my joke. It's my brother's joke, and it's supposed to be with Bill's. Doesn't work great with faxes. Do you want me to look at mine? Yeah. Another talking head. Yeah, sure. She says the boss, but there shouldn't be any ego when you're pulling together to do something good, which is funny because obviously Michael Scott has a huge ego, and yet he is the boss. But because there's a woman who is higher up than him, who is the boss of all bosses, essentially, he has to kind of try downplay it. He can't admit that he's second best, and kind of has to kind of dilute her importance by saying, there shouldn't be an ego if we're all pulling together. It's like comic relief. I'm out here in Africa. I'm seeing the flies and the starvation. And if she was boss, she's in the studio with Robin Williams, Whoopi Goldberg. They're doing the job. They're counting the good for them, but their hands are clean. Whilst I'm here in the office with the little starving kids. Again, I can't necessarily remember Michael Scott's delivery, but I can remember David Brent's delivery of this line, and obviously it was it's a classic David Brentism. Back into the office. Okay, since the last meeting, Alan and the board have decided that we cannot justify Scranton branch and Stanford branch. Okay, go on. Again, you don't need to have obviously flustered interest, and you could. That's just That's just the thing I've noticed. No, listen, Michael, don't panic. I'll go on, should be good. This is good. Go, no, alarm bells. So, no, don't panic. We haven't made any. I don't panic. We haven't made any decisions yet. Good. I've spoken to Josh and Stanford, yeah, and I've told him the same as you, and it's up to either of you of him to convince me that your branch can incorporate the other. Just back onto this bit. I don't panic. The fact is, he is panicking because he keeps interrupting Jan while she's speaking. It's just obviously I'm not panicking, but I am panicking. I've told him the same as you. Okay, no problem. This does, however, means that there is going to be a downsizing. Oh, you see, me not want to hear that, Jan, because downsizing is a bitch. It's a real bitch. I wouldn't wish that on Josh's men. I certainly wish it when present company accepted. Is Josh concerned about downsizing? Well, he is, of course. Good, because I'm very concerned about downsizing. Although I understand if it's absolutely necessary as a businessman when he has to. Does he understand if he's trying to get the upper hand here by kind of, again, diluting Josh's importance by saying, is he concerned about it? And Jan, being a professional, with a professional mindset, is, well, yeah, of course he is. Why would he not be? Good, because I'm very concerned, not just concerned, I'm very concerned about downsizing. Then has to kind of, throw in a little zinger, that fact that he is a businessman and does this and that, so he understands. And then Jan stops him. Go on. Can we not talk about downsizing? Well, we have to sooner or later. Yes, but at the moment, what we have to decide is: do you take on Stanford's people at this branch or the other way around? Well, I take on theirs. No. You and I don't decide. I decide. You do decide, but I decide once you made your case. And that bit seemed to be deleted. Scott's desk phone he answers, the machine kicks in. I'll just screen it. Hi, I'm not available, so please leave a message. All right, Mike, it's the Packer. What's going on? Todd Packer, terrific rip. I hear you've got a hangover, you big fag. Oh, that's not good. That's derogatory. Again, just shows you that, we learn that Todd Packer is a terrible person. He might be a good at his job, but he's a terrible person. And then has to kind of instantly backtrack. Call me back. Hey, you're in with that Jan, what's her face today, aren't you? Give her a pork from me, dude. Oh, awful man. Can we keep a lid on this for the time being? I really don't want to worry people. No worries, under this regime, this will never leave the office. He mimed zipping his mouth shut. As soon as he has said this, we cut to a montage of different employees discussing the news. Angle on Dunner. So what does downsizing actually mean? To end it there. So basically, this kind of completely contradicts Michael Scott. So Michael Scott doesn't actually have hold of his company and his staff members. The fact is, it gets leaked within a moment's notice of Jan leaving, and that is on page 12. Now, out of curiosity, it goes up to page 34, which is about right because that's the same length of it in when it's on air. Because obviously, again, just to say, some shows their script page count will be more than that's aired, or will be less. But this seems to be about right, which means that I kind of feel like it was written with no subject to change. Every page and every beat had to kind of count. Whereas you see some scripts that we've looked at, which are I think the Jimmy McGovern one was about 75, something like that, 60-ish, something like that, which, because it was on BBC and they don't have any adverts, it can run for the full hour, but over 60 pages would imply that it's an hour and a bit, but obviously it was only an hour. So did some of it get taken out, or how was it done? So yeah, that concludes this episode. Apologies if it was quite quick. As you know, I do try to do these scripts quite quickly, and I do it off the cuff whilst reading it along with you, which I prefer doing myself rather than kind of making notes beforehand, which I kind of picked scripts willy-nilly, off the top of my head, and I kind of like to go through them and notice the things that I spot from reading scripts and try to put them out to you. I find sometimes if I write notes beforehand, they could either be quite repetitive or a bit too in depth for this type of video. So yeah, it's very it's a very spontaneous read through, as it were. Which again, if you think about it from your point of view as up and coming writers, this is exactly what a script reader in a professional studio in an industry environment will be doing. They will be looking through your script and trying to work out, has this writer said this to link to this, and what does this bit mean? So the fact that Michael Scott throws the facts into the rubbish bin, that's in itself imply he's a practical joker. He wants to get on Pam's good side. But then later on, when in the meeting with Jam, it shows you that he actually kind of throws her under the bus, blames it on her. He, for all his joking about and whatnot, he actually isn't very professional and kind of feels the pressure of Jan being in the office because, again, she is his boss, even though he doesn't admit it. So that is the link between two separate scenes, and it's not a huge link, and it's not vital, but we can clearly tell what it means to the character and how it shows differences in characters by linking the two scenes. There's a cause and a reaction. There's something happens. How does that affect something on later on down the line, and how is it going to affect it, and what does that show about the storyline or character? Majority of this episode was to do with character. Now, I don't know if that's because it's mockumentary, so therefore the story, again, later on episodes, completely took a world of its own, and the episodes were very, very kind of outrageous. But the pilot itself, the storyline was essentially just introducing all the characters on an average day at work. What was more important was showing you the character personalities and how these characters worked with one another, and the storylines were going to come from that. Michael Scott's unprofessionalism was going to cause drama, Jim's reluctancy and boredom, and Pam's boredom, but Dwight's sort of relationship with Michael Scott, blah blah blah. That's how you generate the ideas. So for episode 15, feel free to comment on this video to say what you thought about the video and what you would like to see next. It could be anything. I'm happy to do TV or film, but please just do let me know. And as I say always, please like, subscribe, and whatnot, and please feel free to check out the other videos. Perfect. Thank you very much.